is Claudia here from the Bookkeeping Experts. Welcome to another QuickBooks Online tutorial. Today we're going to talk about how to use your profit and loss by percentage to plan for the future. We're going to talk about budgeting as well as setting goals. Of course, you have to have the right numbers, and we're going to teach you exactly how to plan for the future. Now, without much further ado, we're going to go straight into QuickBooks Online, and we're going to talk about how we're going to do that. As many of you noticed, QuickBooks had a complete overhaul, right? The interface looks completely different. If we go to the dashboard here, everything looks different, but everything is still the same. See the counting over here on the top or on the left? Okay, this is your left-hand side menu. Okay, so everything can be found right here. A few things have been renamed, like the Create used to be Plus New. Now it's Plus Create. And a few things were added as well, including Sales Order. Today, we're not going to talk about that. Today, we're going to talk about how to use your reports and send it to Excel to be able to plan your future. Okay, so we're going to open up our profit and loss by percentage. This is a great report. It's one of my favorite because it allows you to not only take a look at your financials, but compare to the industry. So if you have your industry average, you'll be able to have an idea of where you are compared to everybody else. Okay, so if this was a restaurant, for instance, which is not the case, this is just a simple company, and it's a simple company with third-party apps such as Shopify, right? So probably more like an e-business, right? So if it is a restaurant, though, we're going to suppose this is a restaurant. We're going to look at the numbers, and we know that the numbers for restaurants, right? You have your revenue here, and your cost of goods sold. Usually you want to be around 30% or so. Another number that we want to take a look at is your payroll expenses. That needs to be around 30% or so. Rent, we like, okay, building and rent here, right here, building and rent should be under 10%, which is the case. So those are all very important numbers. Of course, if you are a retailer, you want to keep an eye on your processing fees, right? And if you're a restaurant, like I said, you want to take a look on your cost of goods sold and your payroll, your rent. Those are the three major expenses that will determine if you're profitable or not. So if you can keep your wages around 30%, if you can keep your cost of goods sold around 30%, that's 60% of your income on those two items. If you can keep your rent about 10%, that's 70%, leaving you 30% for all your operating, all your fixed expenses minus rent. So that's a lot to juggle, right? So you got to be very careful because those two numbers can determine if your restaurant is successful or not. Same thing with any other kind of business. E-business is the same thing. You want to keep your cost of goods sold at the lowest possible because that's going to show you if you're going to be profitable or not. The margins on retail companies are very small. The margins on restaurants are very small. So those are the type of industry that every dime counts. So you need to make sure that those numbers are correct. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, so we're looking at those numbers, and these numbers here look pretty fine, right? There's a few things that maybe I want to adjust for next year. I would be taking a look at this cost of goods sold at 36%. It's a little high. And the payroll, yeah, it's a little high as well. So keep in mind that, between 6 plus 5%, that's actually 6.84 plus 564, that's over 11%. Okay, and 11% on your bottom line makes all the difference, right? So if we can adjust those numbers, we're going to see how your profit is going to change. Right now it's at 17%, and obviously this doesn't have a whole lot of expense. I'm assuming that if you're a retail company, especially e-business, you're going to have a lot of social media and advertising over here, internet and SEO and so on and so forth. So you're going to have a lot of marketing expenses, which we don't have here, right? But something to keep in mind, those numbers are just make believe. So, okay, so let's send those numbers into a Excel spreadsheet. And the way you do it, on the top right hand side, if you see the little page, you want to click on import to Excel, and you're going to have it over here. And I'm just going to click to open up. I'm going to maximize that so you can see. All right, and I'm going to make sure that I click on enable editing so that I can edit my Excel spreadsheet. Of course, you need to have Excel to be able to do that, right, on your computer. But you want to have Excel, or you want to use Google Sheet. I like Excel. I think it gives us a lot of tools to be able to work with. So I would recommend Excel by all means. All right, so let's take a look at the income here. And the numbers that we're looking to change is your cost of goods sold. So if we calculate here, I want to make sure that my cost of goods sold is 30%. So we're going to change this number from 50,000 to 40,717. I'm going to round it up. I'm not going to put the 23 cents, okay? So that's 30%. And I'm going to change my payroll cost. But of course, you know, we're going to have to adjust in both here, right? So wages, I'm going to cut this to 30%. So it's still going to be over 30% on the cost because of your taxes. But I'm going to adjust this number here. And I'm going to equals. So that at 30%, we can use the same number as we use for cost of goods sold, right? It's right here, so I don't have to calculate again. So that's going to be the 40,717. And my payroll would go down to 32% or 32.49%. So, of course, you can adjust a little lower. And the employer taxes, we would adjust that a little bit as well. Okay, if I adjust those 2%, look what happened to my net income. It goes up to 27.53%. So, of course, changing those two numbers will make a whole difference, right? And, of course, you can adjust the square fees. Usually, the merchant fees will be around, let's say, 3% or so of your net income, right? If it is Shopify, Square, it depends on your rate, of course. So let's adjust this number because this number is not very realistic. So I'm going to do this 135 times 0.03. That's going to give me what a real fee would be. And I'm just going to adjust the Shopify. Let's suppose that there's no Square. So just Shopify, that's good enough. All right, so that brought it down to 24.72% bottom line, but it's still very good. So we know that we need to adjust your cost of goods sold. And how we're going to do that, of course, it depends on your industry. If you're in the restaurant business, it's about finding the right resources, finding the right vendor to provide your food and your other supplies, right? Paper good is going up in price, so you got to be very careful with that because obviously there's a lot of takeout, but takeout will require you to increase your cost on paper goods. So you want to find good providers with good prices. So obviously you got to stay on top of that. One way for you to also have accurate information is to use integration, third-party integration. If you're a restaurant, I would recommend to Toast and Margin Edge. Those are excellent tools for restaurants. And obviously, you want to make sure that all the mapping is done correctly. Means all the when you're setting up where each account is going to be routed to in QuickBooks, you want to make sure your chart of accounts is correct, and you want to match that to your third-party app. Same thing with e-business, right? So you can actually integrate your Shopify, your Square, your Amazon store, all into QuickBooks to make sure that all those numbers are coming out correctly. And obviously, you want to make sure you reconcile all your accounts. If you are integrating, you want to make sure that you're not causing any duplication. If you're using payroll, I highly recommend, especially if you have, QuickBooks, you're going to have everything there. All your payroll information is right there. If you have ADP has a great integration with QuickBooks. You want to make sure you integrate it correctly. That integration is done by ADP and is well done. It works really well if all the mapping, all the routing is done correctly. So once again, when I talk about mapping, what mapping is where you routing your expenses and your income in QuickBooks, and those accounts need to be the same. For instance, if you have sale of product in your Shopify as an income account, you have to have the exact same account in QuickBooks Online. All your products and services need to be exact. So you need to import that from your third-party app into QuickBooks to make sure that they match. And every single detail matters. All the commas, all the space, everything will matter on that. So you want to make sure that you have the right information to be able to have the right point of reference, because if you don't have the right point of reference, all these numbers that you see here are bogus. So it's not going to help us plan for the future. So you want to make sure that you put all your expense correctly. All right, so I'm going to go back here because I'm done for this time, and I hope that this content is useful to you. I promise you that if you use that in your business, you'll be able to have not only a snapshot of what's going on with your business, but also it's going to help you to be able to plan for the future, not just with your eyes blind, not knowing where you're going. Of course, you need to know where you're going. Of course, you need to know your point of reference. So have that correct so you can grow your business regardless of how the economy is doing. If you like this content, I would like to ask you a favor. Please subscribe to our channel. We're going to come back to you over and over again. We're going to help you navigate through the changes that QuickBooks will continue to do within the next few months. And we're going to also bring new content, talk about all the integration going on right now. Square is having new integration with QuickBooks, and we have a few bugs. We're going to talk about those bugs. So we're going to keep you up to date with what's going on and help you navigate through QuickBooks. So you want to subscribe, share with your friends and coworkers, and be back for more. We thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We hope to see you soon. And until next time, keep on smiling.